In my line of work, man, you meet a lot of people. You work with a lot of people, doctors, nurses, cleaners, physios, you name it. The emergency department is a very, very fast-paced environment. We see a lot of patients. It's a high turnover type setting. Lots of carers, lots of patients, lots of everything. So in my kind of 12 years of experience, I would say that I've met thousands of people, probably thousands and thousands of people. And when you meet people, you often hear their story, life experiences, and their view on life. And these stories form you as an individual because you get exposed to different types of life. And I've said this many times before, man, like there is no right or wrong way of living life. Who's to say that you should start a family, buy a house, white picket fence, 2 kids, have a car, work for 40 years, retire? Like who's to say that that is the right way to do? Even though the majority of people in the world do that, it doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. It's just a normal thing to do, right? Then you got people kind of in the crime world who live a fast, short life and enjoy the spoils of life and all the shiny things, expensive things. They live that kind of life, and then you hear some other person living a different life. You hear all sorts of people. And one person in particular popped into my head last night. I was actually talking to a colleague. We were talking about drugs and how prevalent these drugs are becoming. Adelaide, South Australia here, man, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago we were, but we are the capital of meth in the world. And it's kind of calculated per capita, right? So we don't have a massive population in this city. It's like 1 million people or something. So it's not a humongous population. I think it's just over 1 million. So to be a capital of a drug like that, that's a big deal, right? And for many years I used to think to myself, how the hell do they measure that? Like how do the authorities measure that there's a lot of meth use? Actually, a few years ago I learned that they actually test the sewage system. So they basically, all the sewage goes into, one spot or whatever the setup of different cities is. And they test, these metabolites in the sewage, and they work out exactly what concentration. I don't know, that's a scientific thing to do, but we're the capital of meth. And so we were talking about this last night, and a fella popped into my head that I met probably 5-6 years ago, something like this. He came in with chest pain, and I was working in this kind of acute area. He had chest pain, we thought it was a cardiac kind of sounding chest pain picture. So he came in and we were doing frequent observations on him, took bloods, x-ray, all that kind of stuff, the normal patient workup. He was a nice fella. Started talking to him and I said, you've been busy lately, as I'm kind of giving him pain relief and whatever. We just started chatting and he's like, yeah, man, we're really busy. I work in this pizza shop kind of in the area. And I said, I've never been there. And he said, yeah, definitely come, man. We make really good pizzas, not just because I work there, but, we do a really good job. And I said, oh, cool, no worries. I'll come one of these days and, try pizza or something. And I said, are you guys really, really busy? He said, yeah, man, I've been, working like crazy lately. I said, how many days do you work? And he's like, well, this week I've worked 4 days straight. And I'm like, oh, what do you mean 4 days straight? Like, long hours? He's like, yeah, very long hours. I said, oh, how many hours did you do? Man, what he said next, man, I couldn't believe what he said. Like, I've never heard anybody do this, man, especially this type of individual. He said, no, I've worked 4 days straight. So I'm standing there looking at him. He's like, yeah, man, I have worked 24 hours in each day, 4 times 4. I worked 4 days straight. And I was looking at this guy, man. I'm like, so far, you're talking to me all right, like you're a normal fellow. Why are you talking crap, man? And I say, how can somebody work 4 days straight? I don't get it. Like, he's like, we're a 24-hour, business, and I've worked 4 hours straight, 4 days straight. To this day, I still can't believe what that actually means. Like, I know Navy SEALs, stay up 7 days in a row or something like this, and they manage like 6 hours in total of sleep or something like this, and they're training and they're doing all these exercises and drills and whatever. But here's a guy working at a pizza shop, and I said, well, what do you mean? Like, he's, oh yeah, the boss is short of staff and whatever, and we got into a bit of a pickle and the shop needs to run and I'm the kind of head chef or whatever, and yeah, I worked 4 days straight. And I said, how? Like, that's not humanly possible. He's like, oh yeah, I take meth, and this is part of the problem why I'm here. This is why I've got chest pain. So I said, oh, okay, so how much do you meth? So we started talking about the meth use and whatever, and He said, after those 4 days, I would literally go home and I would sleep for like 2 days. Man, I've never, up until this point, like I've seen people go on meth benders and go on like, 6-7 day benders where they don't sleep at all. But these people are not functional, man. Like these people are party animals. They're just not functional. Like a lot of these people become delusional and psychotic and all that stuff. This dude was running a business. 4 days straight, he was working under meth. He looked like a normal dude to me, man. Like he didn't look like no junkie or anything. Like he looked like a normal chap that you would walk past the street and be like, yeah, he's a normal guy going about this normal life that we deem to be normal. Man, PEDs, right? This dude is taking PEDs to make better pizzas and to work longer. So in my line of work, in my thinking, when I think of PEDs, man, I think about steroids. I think about all these things that people take in the gym, to get better, strong. But dude, PEDs, man, like it comes from many, many different forms, right? Like there's a very well fact that cocaine is an expensive drug, right? Especially in Australia, it's one of the more expensive ones, and so people that take cocaine are usually well off. You don't see homeless dudes taking cocaine because it's really expensive. You need like $1,000 for a good night of cocaine. That's a lot of money, man. And so it's a well-known fact that a lot of upper class people use cocaine. We're talking like doctors, surgeons, lawyers, business owners, like people that have a lot of money. It's like a really clean drug, I suppose, and people do that. But meth is cheap, man. Like there's dudes in the backyards like cooking this stuff up by going to a local hardware store and like buying fertilizer and God knows what else. Like it's a fairly easy process, so I'm told. I mean, I've never freaking cooked meth in my life. But, apparently that's what keeps the costs down because you don't need to import it from freaking Colombia or Venezuela. Like, you can do this thing in your backyard if you have a couple of tools. And so people that don't have a lot of money use meth like they would use cocaine, like to function highly. Man, like I would never take steroids. I would never take whatever, human growth hormone and insulin and whatever people take nowadays, SARMs. I would never take that for something that I actually freaking love, and that's weightlifting. I love weightlifting. I come in here even on days like this when I'm not feeling the greatest after a night shift. Haven't eaten for a whole bunch of time. I haven't slept. I think I slept 5 hours today, 4 hours, or whatever the hell it is. So, and I don't take drugs for that. My passion, right? This dude is taking meth so he can earn $1. Now, I'm sure he likes what he does, right? Like, but I don't think he likes making pizzas as much as I freaking like squatting, right? It'll be hard to believe that, right? So this dude is doing that. And once again, like I don't want to paint the wrong picture, man. This dude was well looking, nice fella, polite, presents well, all that stuff. This is no junkie. It was one of the most kind of eye-opening things to me. Because, most of the people that we see in ED, in ER, are people that are kind of on the other side of society. People that are doing it tough, people that are looking for escape, homeless people, people that are, involved in all sorts of wrong things in life and whatever. And so here is a guy who is basically running a business for his boss, right? Making these pizzas, pastas, whatever the hell else they do. And he's functioning. He's using PEDs to earn a living and to basically earn a lot of, like, think about it. Like, what people do, let's say 8 hours, 12-hour days or whatever. This dude did a 24-hour day, man, for 4 days in a row. That's a 100-hour week, man. And he only worked 4 days. Now, granted, he's probably going to sleep for two days after that because he's going to be freaking rooted. Like, I don't even know I've never looked into how long somebody can, stay awake for what duration before you freaking fall and have a heart attack and die. I mean, this fella came in after his 2 days of sleeping. He came in and he was, he had chest pain and whatever. And no, of course, like, he hasn't. So, 4 days he stayed up and worked like a maniac, working the shop. Then 2 days he slept. So, in those 2 days he didn't eat, he didn't sleep. Like, I don't even know if he urinated in bed. I don't know what that even looks like. Like, your kidneys are still working, right? Man, it's some crazy stuff. Like, people are pushing their bodies incredibly. And these performance-enhancing drugs allow us to do all sorts of things, man. Like, I remember hearing stories about another drug, a concentration drug I forget the name, but people take it to sit high pressure exams, high stakes exams, to pass these like really important specialization exams. Whatever academia you want to think of. People just take a tablet and they go in and they have like a really fast memory recall, right? So if you study for a whole year for this particular exam and you rock up and you take a drug and your memory recall, your neural firing is just, on lack of a better term, on steroids, right? Like everything's flying like crazy. You're going to do better on the exam than somebody that's natty in the exam. A lot of people just consume coffee, right? They take coffee and they go in and they hope for the best. But if you're like juiced out of your skull with drugs that actually make you think clearer and quicker, man, think about that stuff, man, because a lot of these exams, man, they're not pass or fail. Like after, you get more than 50%, you pass. For instance, when I was going for this GAMSAT exam, which is here in Australia to get into postgraduate medicine, I said it twice and I passed it both times. And you get a score, like you get a score out of 100. And this is not how like a percentage of the answers that you got right. It is literally a ranking against the rest of the population in the exam. So if you have 100 people sit it, right? I'm not a mathematician. I'm probably going to get corrected by some of you guys. But if 100 people sit this exam and everyone gets perfect score and you get, 90 out of 100 for the exam, you're going to fail this exam because they can't allow 100 people to go through. They want to cut the field. And so you're going to miss out on this exam because a lot of, everyone's scored really, really high. And so the person that hasn't scored really high, even if you score like 70%, which is in normal circumstances, that will be a passing grade. Because everyone's done so well, you would fail. You wouldn't get through because they have a quota of how many people they want to let through. And so they they conclude, okay, so this exam was really easy. This is why everyone got really high grades, but we're still going to take 50%, the upper 50% or 40%, whatever they do, of this whole population that they've kind of set this exam. So, high stakes exams, you're basically going against the other people that are taking the exam. You're not going against the paper itself. It's a competition. It's a ranking. Let's talk about people that are enhanced in some of these other areas. What's that? I know a lot of people in the fitness industry say, people that are taking steroids and performance enhancers, they're not cheating. They just love the game really, really a lot and they want to do really well and dedicate themselves. Can we say the same thing for people that are sitting these medical exams under the influence of drugs? Do they really, really want to be a doctor more than the guy who's natty, who's doing the right thing? I don't know. These are some like ethical, moral discussions, which maybe there's no right or wrong answer. Maybe it depends on your perspective. But I've went to these exams. I didn't even drink a coffee. I've told you guys, I only drink coffee as an emergency. And I rocked up and my head hurt and whatever. I did the best I could and I passed and whatever. It was all good. But it ended up being not enough to get into the school that I wanted to. I ended up getting a 59 out of 100 for this exam. And the entry score was 65 for that year. The year before it was 55. Now this year was 65. So it depends on the difficulty of the exam. And so I missed out that year. Ultimately, I'm kind of glad that I didn't go down that path because, a career in medicine is that's... And I was talking to a doctor last night, a doctor that's worked in the States for a very long time. He's basically at the tail end of his career. And he said that he basically did 100 hours a week, every single week, basically, for a large part of his training. As soon as he became an intern, it was 100 hours a week. Now, I don't know about you guys, man, but Jesus Christ, 100 hours a week, that's crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. As an intern, as a resident, these guys did a lot of hours. And I like my job, man, but I don't like it for 100 damn hours a week. That's some crazy stuff, man. This is the thing, man. It becomes ethical, it becomes moral, it becomes all these big questions. What's the right thing to do or not? This guy was basically taking drugs to enhance his capacity to work and earn $1. And I imagine, so he's making pizzas and pastas and whatnot, pies. But there's guys up there, who are CEOs running these big funds and whatever, who are on the stock exchange, on the floors, doing crazy hours, high pressure deals and all that, and they're all enhanced and they're all flying for 12 hours. They don't have to eat, they don't have to do anything, they're just on the phone. I don't know, this is the world we live in, man. People they want to improve their performance every chance they get. Obviously, there's a cost associated with everything. You can't create nor destroy matter. These are some of the undeniable truth of the world and the universe and the way it's balanced. You can do all of that stuff and you can do whatever the hell you want to do. But there's going to be, consequences. This guy, luckily, he didn't die, but, he pushed that needle really close to having a heart attack. His arteries might have been clean and whatever, all this sort of stuff. We know that you can have a myocardial infarction or a heart attack, and it's not necessarily plaque related. You just have a spasm of the arteries, right? The arteries in our bodies, they're kind of like wrapped around with muscle. They respond to blood pressure and whatnot. They control blood pressure as well. So, if you are smashing the hell out of your system, right? Who's to say that these muscles, this sheet of muscle that's kind of going around the coronary artery, the artery that feeds the heart with blood, who's to say that you get to a point where you're so damn exhausted, there's a spasming effect to this muscle because it's exhausted, the electrolytes are spent, you've just basically burnt the body to the ground. There's a spasm, occlusion occurs, all of a sudden you're having a heart attack and there's nothing you can do about it. At the end of the day, if you're an adult and you decide to do all that stuff, to a certain extent, I'm kind of okay with that. It's not okay on the grand scheme of things because you're going against somebody that's natty and you are not natty, and it's not clear who's doing what. So that's unfair from that perspective. But what really doesn't sit with me is when uninformed people, kids, under 18s, there's people now doing steroids at 16, which is insane, right? Like 16, man, your testosterone is at peak anyway in your whole life. And people are taking steroids on top of that, messing themselves up because they see, guys with 100, 200, 300,000 subscribers, following, they're jacked, they have 300 kilo squats, they really seem really cool, they post pictures of girls and hot cars and big houses, and so this impressionable guy at 17 is like, struggling to get any sort of attention from girls and guys and whatever. And so he sees that as a ticket out, and he consumes these drugs and then abuses them, and is uninformed and does it wrong. That's where my heart gets upset about this type of stuff. I would hate a situation where you go to an exam and you don't even stand a chance unless you're on some of this stuff, because everyone's on the stuff. Everyone's smart like you. Everyone works really hard like you. But these dudes are on drugs, and so 50% of the field is going to pass through because they're on drugs. These are some of the kind of moral issues that I have with some of this stuff. Like, people say, oh, why do you care what people do? Well, people impact me, right? People impact me. If my neighbor comes out and dumps his trash right in the middle of the street, that's his business. But all of a sudden, I'm smelling that stench as well, man. Like, this is my street as much as it is his street. So all of a sudden, I get involved because it's affecting me. If I go to the exam and I fail the exam, or I don't get through the exam because that dude is on drugs, or when I go to a weightlifting competition, it's a natty competition, right? Supposedly, apparently the IFBB, world, universe and Mr. Olympia, apparently that's a clean, competition. For 30, 40 years, they've been telling us it's clean. But, I rock up, worked really, really hard to rock up, and this dude's like 400 pounds, ripped. Come on, man. Is that fair? I don't know, man. These are some of the big issues that are, it's a loaded topic. And, I've always said to you guys, I'm against drugs. I'm against all of this sort of stuff. I like to promote movement, human movement, working stuff out, having fun with the barbell, getting as good as you can, and just enjoying the journey and not focusing too much on the destination. Because if you work on the destination and you start looking at these world records, the only way you're going to break these records is if you drug yourself up. There's no other way. Anyway, guys, got to wrap this up, have a shower, and have some food and go to work. This afternoon, I woke up and there was some more names on Patreon. The support keeps flooding in. I want to mention some of these names. Baz van der Veen, Endarulf, Usman Ali, Estelle, Michael Cole. I think I'm saying Michael Cole. I apologize, man, if I said any of your names incorrectly. But I just want to take this time to thank you guys for doing this, for going out of your way to support me, some guy at the end of the earth, on his journey, doing what he loves to do and try to spread as much positivity as I can, motivate people. I love this game, and I want to share with everyone that also loves this game and help people on their way as well, as much as I can. So I appreciate the support. It just makes this even more of a possibility. I better wrap this up before this chopper lands on my head. I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.